Mischke. 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 Mischke.
Hello, sports fans. Let's rumble! Tom, what does that even mean? Any of that? I don't know. I realize when you talk for a living, sometimes when you have nothing to say, but you realize you talk for a living, you just say things. Because that's what you do for a living, and you best put something out there. So often I'll say something that will make no sense at all, but it will fulfill my obligations as a guy who talks for a living. Some of you guys who get to be quiet out there for a living, you don't know how lucky you are. I'm thinking now about librarians, professional meditators, bird watchers, peeping toms. Wait, they don't do that for a living, do they? Any of you guys out there making a living as a peeping Tom? What if that were a real job? Well, who'd be paying you? I got good news and bad news for you, fella. We're going to pay you to be a peeping Tom. Really? That's great. It's what you're peeping at that's the bad news. What? Tell him, Carl. I don't have the heart to tell him what he's going to be peeping at, Lou. There isn't a guy in the world who should be looking at something like that. What am I peeping at? It's a swingers club in the basement of the Hormel plant in Austin, Minnesota, a meatpacking plant. There's a swingers club in the basement in the evisceration room where the pigs are slaughtered. What? We've had law enforcement in the area for years, but have never been able to catch them. So we're going to lower you down into the basement via a sewer opening. What? How did I get onto this topic? Do I have a guest? It's been a while since I've had a guest. I know I have a guest for the next show. Halloween theme, I believe. Some haunted thing? Aren't we doing that for the next show? Yes. Horrible, terrifying stories of hauntings. Real life stuff. But no, today, who do we have today? Do we have a guest? Yes, we do. We do have a guest. The author on today is a former five-star general, Francis LaPuke, formerly of the Joint Chiefs of Staff under George W. Bush. He's written a book that's a real departure from his previous work. It's called The Female Guide to Pelvic Floor Health. General, welcome to the show. How are you? I'm sorry, what's that? Oh, okay. The general had to cancel last minute. That's unfortunate. Well, heck, what do we do now? Why don't we make a phone call? Why don't we find out who's out there in listener land? We'll spin the big wheel and see what number comes up. John. John's name comes up. John's name has come up before. I believe I've called him before. In fact, I believe I've called him a couple of times before. But he's never answered. He's one of those I don't answer when Mischke calls guys. We'll give it one more try.
Mischke.
Well, look who decided to answer his phone.
About time, eh?
What the hell has been wrong with you? You better have a good excuse, 'cause I was giving up on making any more calls to this John fella.
I'm just a busy guy, and I don't have my phone permanently attached to my body.
So what do you do for a living, John?
Repair Ford and Lincoln vehicles at a dealership.
When I was a kid and I was homesick from school, I'd see all the ads that were intended to catch unemployed guys day drinking. And I remember one ad in particular, and I was a little kid. This was for control data. Remember control data?
I do, yeah. Yep.
It started out saying, do you like rolling up your sleeves but don't want to get your fingernails dirty? And that was their way of saying, would you like to work on a fancy new invention we like to call the computer? And it was for guys who wanted to roll up their sleeves, which is something I guess a lot of guys like to do. And then they were a little bit fastidious. They didn't want to get their fingernails dirty. I've actually never met a guy like that. I've never met a guy who said to me, I don't like getting my fingernails dirty.
I guess I've never, actually met one who said it. I've seen a few who do keep their fingernails clean, but, yeah.
We all try to. I mean, you have to, because you know why we have to? Do you know? I know why we have to. Do you know?
I don't know.
The reason we have to keep our fingernails clean, and it's the only reason, is because there are women around. There are women around.
Well,
that's it. If they all die, and we don't know, they could. I mean, take the white pine. There's this disease right now going around that's taking out a lot of white pine. What if it's the same damn thing, but it takes out women? All of a sudden, they're gone. I ain't cleaning my fingernails. What am I catching you doing right now?
I actually should be finishing up a set of spark plugs on a pickup truck right now. You're costing me money, you know that.
And you're making me money, so this is really messy. But I'll tell you something. I used to work at a service station in between high school and college when I thought the last thing I want to do was go to college because I had just gone to school for 12 years and it was living hell. In that year between high school and college, I worked at a service station. Here was the worst thing about it. There was this one mechanic, overweight guy. This guy would sweat a lot. He was the one who was particularly mean to me. He was the most mean. And I'd be, putting a new tire on this rim. And he'd say, Mischke, get over here. And he'd be under a hood. And I'd think, oh, something's important. I better get over there quickly. And I'd run over there. I'd look under the hood and I'd see what he'd be doing. I said, what are you doing? What do you need? Do you need me to hold something in there? What do you got going on? And he'd just turn, look me in the eye, and he'd say, did you break wind? And all of a sudden, this wall, like the Poseidon wave, this wall of odor would come barreling into me. And I'd just scream, you bastard! The guy who ran the station, he drank a lot. Everybody who ran a service station back then, everyone who ran a service station was an alcoholic. In the town I lived in, because I had plenty of buddies who worked at these stations, all the owners were alcoholics. This guy would let me every night take his Corvette to the liquor store to get him some vodka. And I'd come back and give him his vodka, and he'd drink it with Orange Crush. So one night, he was having way too many of those Orange Crush and vodka deals. And it was getting late. It was past closing time. We had just been BSing. And he was telling me about his tours in Vietnam. He did a couple, Marine. And after a while, he started to get a little maudlin. He said, it's a crazy thing. You do a couple tours over there where there are no laws, there are no rules. You can pretty much do what you want. Pull the trigger, someone dies, big deal. You come home and all of a sudden you can't park during this particular time to this particular time. I had some trouble following the rules when I got back, and I've never told anybody this outside of the guys who witnessed it, but I killed a guy back here. You what? I killed a guy here, playing cards on Selby Avenue, back of a bar. I was winning quite a bit, and a guy accused me of cheating. And I said, I'm not cheating. You're just losing. You're not playing cards very well, probably because you're drinking too much. And this guy pulled a gun on me and said, you're not leaving with that. I had a gun on me, and I shot him and killed him. And I was up $1,700, and I split the money with the other guys at the table to not say anything. When the police came, we just told them it was a robbery. Someone had come into the back of the bar and robbed us all. And I never knew what to do with that information. I never knew if that was something I should pass along or what. I always kept it to myself. But that was a strange night. Never quite looked at him the same way again.
Don't imagine.
Yeah. I think it was about then that I said, it might be good to go to college. So I did. Did I mention my first week they sent me all over town to auto parts stores requesting a radiator for a 1967 VW Bug?
Really, did they?
Yeah, that was part of the hazing. Yeah,
Oh, geez.
I did not know that there is no such thing as a radiator.
Not an air-cooled.
Not an air-cooled one. Yep.
How far can we push, Mischke?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I enjoyed
I better get
talking
some
to you,
work done,
John.
man.
I'll let you go. I'm sorry to cost you this dough.
That's all right. Been looking forward to the call. So.
Yeah, good visiting with you.
All right.
All right.
We'll be listening.
Thanks so much, John. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Tommy. Bye.
I've been doing ads for Fury Motors for one heck of a long time. I've been doing ads here on this podcast, on my last one, The Road Show, that I did for 11 years. Before that, at WCCO, I did ads for Fury Motors. When I was at City Pages, doing a podcast there, I did ads for Fury Motors. Before that, KSTP. Now, after a while, you say to yourself, don't all the people know now where to go? What more is there to say? You guys do know about Fury, right? So if you're not going there, you must have some bug in your bonnet. I don't know what it is. And if you are going there, what's the point of me talking about it? What I'm saying is, should I stop doing ads for Fury? The only reason not to go there is because your brother-in-law would kill you, because he has a dealership. I get that. If your brother-in-law has a dealership, we're done talking. For the rest of you, you get your candy carcasses to Fury Motors, or I'll get my gal Martha here to give you a spanking. Martha, you'll give him a spanking, won't you? I don't know. Do I have to? Martha's a little shy. And then there's the Welshire. You know, I think about all the wonderful things I say about the Welshire Residential Memory Care Center in Medina and Bloomington, and I think, in the end, don't you need to tour it to know if that's where you want to place your grandmother or grandfather, your parent, your spouse? Really, what does it matter what I say? You're going to want to tour it and decide for yourself. But maybe my talking about the Welshire gets you to want to give it a tour. The one thing all the people at the Welshire know is, once you do tour it, you won't look elsewhere for a place to bring a loved one with memory care issues, dementia, Alzheimer's. There really won't be another place like it around. You'll have found where you want them to be, because if the roles were reversed, that's where you'd want to be. That's what happens when you tour the Welshire. So you can take all the wonderful things I've said about it and just set that aside. Give it a tour and say afterward, I'm sure glad I saw this place. I would hate to have placed them somewhere else and not known a memory care center like this exists. Tour the Welshire of Medina and Bloomington. Welcome back. I'm just reading something here. Bear with me. A headline here reads, Super Bowl contender turning into a soul-crushing disaster. Who are they talking about here? What Super Bowl contender is turning into a soul-crushing disaster? Oh, the Baltimore Ravens are, apparently. Beaten down by injuries and struggling to keep pace, the much-hyped Baltimore Ravens have gone from worse to, well, even worse. And they were Super Bowl contenders? And it's now soul-crushing? Well, I don't know. Super Bowl contender turning into soul-crushing disaster. Soul-crushing. I sometimes wonder what people who aren't into sports think when they read about things like this. Soul-crushing. That's quite something to say. Bob, aren't you going to work today? Not today, honey. And not tomorrow either. In fact, I'm not going all week. Well, why, Bob? What happened? Sweetheart, my soul, my very soul, the most important part of me, the most sacred part of me, the eternal part of me, that has been crushed. It's been squashed, mashed. It's been pulverized, sweetheart. All but extinguished. And I am done as a living, breathing human being of any worth, of any value. My soul crushed, pulverized, destroyed. Golly, Bob, how did this happen? The Baltimore Ravens, they're not going anywhere this year. But, Bob, this doesn't really matter. Sports isn't real, Bob. These are games played by men acting like boys. It's all silliness, frivolity. Darlene, I'm going to need you to take 3 steps backwards right now. I'm going to ask you right now politely to take 3 steps back into the kitchen and close the door. This is for your own safety, for the sake of your future as a living, breathing person on this planet. Okay, honey? And if you can, if you're able to, enter the space-time continuum through some wormhole, find those sentences you just uttered, and get them erased from the cosmic record. Please. You seem a little wound up, Bob. Oh, wound up? Am I wound up? That's what they said to little Caroline Kennedy when they passed along the news about her dad. She was 5 years old, and they let her know the story of that afternoon in Dallas, and they said she was a little wound up. Apparently they failed to remind themselves they were talking about her father. He was gone. Sure, they went a little overboard, telling her the whole thing about the multiple shooters, the grassy knoll, the Cubans, the CIA, the mafia, all of that. But she had a right to know. It was her father. So when she then described that moment as soul-crushing, I understand that. Others apparently did not. They said, Caroline, honey, let's not venture into the indefensible world of hyperbole, okay? They actually said that to her. Do you think that was a kind way to speak to a 5-year-old who had just lost her dad? I don't. So when she picked up LBJ, when little Caroline picked up LBJ, and with that seemingly superhuman strength that must have come from a sudden adrenaline rush, when she hurled LBJ's large body across the room into the Oval Office bookshelves, shattering his vertebrae, was that over the top? Honey, was that over the top? Or was she just saying what everyone was thinking? You're a Texan. You want to be president. You can only be president if my dad's killed. And oh, he was just killed in Texas. Hello? In a Shakespeare play, it'd be a no-brainer revelation. And when little Caroline, 5 years old, found J. Edgar Hoover later that day and pretended to need his shoulder to cry on, but instead just bit 4 inches of flesh out of his freaking shoulder, was that extreme? 'Cause I don't think so. You can still go to YouTube and see the clip of her chasing him through the rose garden. He's dressed in women's clothing because he didn't know she'd be poking her head in his room that day. But that's him. You can tell it's him. No woman runs that way. You can watch it. So tell me again about being wound up over the early season collapse of my Baltimore Ravens. Sweetheart. Bob, I'm going to pack a bag and move to my mother's house for the season. We can get together again later in the winter, maybe. You know, sweetheart, that's exactly what Jackie Kennedy said to 5-year-old Caroline, leaving her with no one to commiserate with. Little John was never told the truth back then, so Caroline couldn't commiserate with him. John was told the old man was sleeping. They didn't even tell him he was dead. They said he was sleeping. So who did Caroline end up seeking out for comfort back then? Who do you think Caroline Kennedy sought out for comfort? Mom was out of the picture. Brother was clueless. A lot of people don't know this. It's been a secret for a lot of years. Caroline made a phone call to a very special individual and invited him into her life, and he became a kind of babysitter and confidant. You know who that was? None other than singer-songwriter Neil Diamond. He was just 22 years old, but when she said she was kind of bummed out about the assassination, he understood. He said to Caroline that as a teenager, he had been shot. Now, it was with a pellet gun, but it hurt like hell, he said. And he said, people don't understand this. People don't understand this until they've been through it. In his case, it was a headshot. You can look it up. People, I'm serious. Right now, stop the podcast. Look it up. Put in a search engine, Neil Diamond, pellet gun, headshot. Hit him just under the eye. I'm not making this up. And Caroline turned to him because everybody else thought she was just a little too wound up. And, of course, Neil Diamond would go on to write Sweet Caroline, the song Sweet Caroline, for Caroline Kennedy. And he wrote it based on his memories of those many conversations with her at 5 years of age. Now, people are saying right now as they listen to me, no way was Neil Diamond referring to Caroline Kennedy in the song Sweet Caroline. I hate to say it, but once again, you're going to look like a fool. Stop the podcast, look it up. Both of these stories are true. The headshot that Neil Diamond took years before getting together with Caroline Kennedy and referring to Caroline Kennedy in the song Sweet Caroline. So again, he was way more sympathetic than Jackie Kennedy was. Jackie Kennedy, who essentially checked out on Caroline because she was overreacting. The way Baltimore Ravens fans are overreacting. But are Baltimore Ravens fans overreacting? I don't think so. I think this season in Baltimore is going to be known as the headshot season. Where's Edgar Allan Poe when you need him? He could tell this horror story better than I. He was a Baltimore guy. Darlene, you can come out of the kitchen now. I think you probably get it after hearing all this. Do you get it now?
Get ready to rethink everything you know about Neil Diamond's iconic Sweet Caroline. This feel-good anthem has pumped up stadiums and packed dance floors for decades, but it hides a jaw-dropping secret that'll blow your mind. For nearly 40 years, the true story behind the song's inspiration was locked away, sparking wild debates about creativity and innocence. Unlike his other compositions, which typically required careful planning and multiple revisions, Sweet Caroline emerged fully formed in approximately 30 minutes. Quote, "The whole thing took about a half hour," he revealed on the Today Show in 2014. "When I wrote the song, I thought, this is some kind of magic that happened." Diamond later reflected that the song possessed an almost divine quality, describing it as having a little bit of God within its structure. Following the song's release, Diamond maintained strict silence about the true inspiration behind Sweet Caroline. The mystery deepened as the song gained popularity, particularly after it became a beloved tradition at Boston Red Sox games starting in 1997. Speculation ran rampant about the identity of the mysterious Caroline, with various theories emerging but none confirmed by the songwriter himself. The first major revelation came in November 2007, when Diamond finally broke his decades-long silence during an interview with the Associated Press. Quote, "I've never discussed it with anybody before. I thought maybe I would tell it to Caroline when I met her someday." The opportunity had presented itself just weeks earlier when Diamond performed the song via satellite at Caroline Kennedy Schlossberg's 50th birthday party. The performance marked not only the first time Diamond had publicly connected the song to the former first daughter, but also the moment when one of music's greatest mysteries was finally solved. Kennedy herself was reportedly struck by it and really happy to learn of her connection to the beloved anthem. Diamond's explanation painted a picture of artistic inspiration striking at an unexpected moment. He described being a young, broke songwriter in the early 60s when he encountered Caroline Kennedy next to her pony.
"Hi, how are you? Caroline, sweet Caroline." Superb.
Josh Arnold. Josh Arnold, where you going for your financial advice? Josh Arnold, hey, 48 minutes for free. Josh Arnold, you get your retirement figured out? Arnold gonna help you get it all figured out. Josh Arnold, Josh Arnold, hey, 48 minutes for free on the phone. You call Josh Arnold now. I didn't intend to do the ad that way. I got a bug in my bonnet. You people thinking you're taking care of your retirement savings? You think you've got a whole plan? You think you got it figured out? Okay, fine. I'd call Josh Arnold myself. 952-925-5608. 48-minute consultation for nothing, camper.
Investment services offered by Josh Arnold Investment Consultant, LLC, a security and investment advisor. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investments involve risk. Tommy Mischke is a paid endorser.
I like to stop at the spectacle shop. I said, I like to stop at the spectacle shop. I like to stop at the spectacle shop. I said, I like to stop at the spectacle shop. How, bow, you. Hope you do, because they have won Best Eyewear Shop in Minnesota the last 5 years in a row in a poll of readers of the Star Tribune. Now, winning once, okay, what does that mean? Everybody gets lucky. Twice, okay, still could be a fluke. 3 times, well, unlikely. 4 times, no way. 5, are you kidding me? Now, here's the deal. They're going to win every year. No one else is ever going to win, because they simply are the best eyewear shop. This isn't a game. And you're going to the second best. Why? Oh, yeah. Your brother-in-law has a little optical shop, a boring little place where you go in and you put on these glasses, you look like a dork, and you leave and you kind of see well, and you go home and you say, oh, God, I hope he likes me. Spectacle Shop is known for handling the most complicated eyewear prescriptions. They're masters there. They're the most professional operation in Minnesota. That's why they win every year. But you're going to the other place again. What is that place called? Bush League Eyewear. I've heard of them. We're going to come down in the nation of Turkey right now and talk about Turkish coffee. In Turkey, your coffee comes with a side of destiny. Did you know that? I did not, but I was reading a publication yesterday and learned that in Turkey, your coffee comes with a side of destiny. That's a headline that's going to attract my attention, because I don't understand why the destiny is thrown in there. Turkish coffee, destiny, I don't get it. Well, I read the article, and it turns out calling Turkish coffee a drink undersells it. Turns out Turkish coffee is not just a drink, it's a ritual. Turkish coffee is a conversation. Turkish coffee is something that comes with destiny. It's the ancestor, they say, of all coffee. Turkish coffee, that's where it all began. When I get up in the morning and have my cup of coffee and I'm staring into the backyard, I can trace that enjoyable moment all the way back to Turkey, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Turkish coffee has been called an invaluable addition to the cultural heritage of humanity. Turkish coffee is not like your coffee. You're going to a coffee shop in the morning, getting a coffee. That's not a Turkish coffee. Yours isn't coming with destiny. Listen to this. A Harvard professor authored an academic paper about coffee, and here's what he titled it. How dark is the history of the night, how black the story of coffee, how bitter the tale of love. The changing measure of leisure and pleasure in early modern Istanbul. That's just the title of that academic paper about coffee. Harvard guy. He titled it, How Dark is the History of the Night, How Black the Story of Coffee, How Bitter the Tale of Love. The changing measure of leisure and pleasure in early modern Istanbul. Well, he writes, coffee houses stirred controversy years ago in Istanbul. Religious scholars and political leaders began to view coffee houses as places for subversive activities and idle chatter, and they were banned due to concern that it would lead to radical ideas. But their coffee was served with a side of destiny and a small dish of fate and offerings of fortune and karma, kismet, providence, serendipity. Meanwhile, I was just putting a little half and half in my coffee. Oh, to be Turkish and getting up in the morning and having Turkish coffee. You know what they don't hear in Turkey in the morning when they have their coffee? They don't hear this nonsense.
Days looking new and bright, and you're gonna start it right. Folgers starting to brew, the aroma's calling you. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
They don't put up with that. They don't have to put up with that. You know what they hear with their coffee? They hear this. The day is looking new and bright, and you are going to start it right. Turkish coffee is the brew that has destiny calling you. The best part of waking up is sagacity in your cup and discerning enlightenment in your cup and heaping spoonfuls of profundity and erudition combined with mystical powers and cosmic awareness. Turkish coffee is different. Don't just drink it. Let it waft through the hallways of your soul. It's Turkish coffee. You bring Folgers into Turkey, and you know what's going to happen to you? You're going to get the Midnight Express treatment, and that ain't pretty. Talk to Oliver Stone. I think the men in the old 1960s Folgers commercials must have been Turks. You ever hear how the guys in 1960s Folgers commercials talked to the women? This is how they pitched coffee in the 1960s in America, at least for Folgers. They had husbands yell at their wives for the bad coffee. And that actually went over well. That sold Folgers. Women said, yeah, I'm going to buy it now that I see that husband yelling at his wife on the TV screen. I think the men in the 60s commercials were Turks. These husbands in these Folgers ads just unloaded on their wives for making bad coffee. It really went beyond the pale. These poor women, the guys were so demanding. I found some of these commercials, these Folgers commercials from the 60s, and I took the little clips where the guys complained to their wives. It's really brutal to listen to.
Folgers coffee, mountain grown for richer flavor.
Oh, Mrs. Olson, he's always crabbing about my coffee. I could cry. You make me feel very unwifely. Go barbecue.
Don't serve your awful coffee with my steaks.
Your coffee, sir.
How can such a pretty wife make such bad coffee?
Our anniversary. Why so glum?
Well, it's your coffee. Your coffee just doesn't taste any good.
Harold, is the coffee all right?
Mm-mm.
You mean it's as bad as yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
Harold, don't just shake your head. You've got to tell me what's wrong with the coffee.
Bad taste.
Oh, no.
What's wrong?
Oh, it's your coffee again. The desk sergeant at the station makes better coffee than this.
Ed, really?
Sorry, honey, but your coffee tastes terrible.
Wonderful anniversary, dear, and thank you for the flowers.
You're welcome, darling. But if you could do one thing for me.
What?
Try to do something about your coffee.
Harvey, want anything special for your birthday?
Just a decent cup of coffee. I'm serious, honey, your coffee's undrinkable.
Pretty harsh.
Well, so's your coffee. You know, the girls down at the office make better coffee on their hot plates.
Now, I know what a lot of you are saying about now. You're saying, I hope Mishke's going to drop this coffee talk. I've had it about up to here with this coffee talk business. Well, no, I am not. According to a recent report from the National Coffee Association, coffee consumption in the United States is at an all-time high. It's the most popular beverage there is among Americans. The most consumed beverage in the United States. More Americans drink coffee than drink bottled water, for God's sakes. 3 in 4 Americans drink coffee every single day. Now, that remaining 1/4, they have coffee perhaps every other day, every third day, once a week. 3 in 4 drink it every day. Now, I want to put it together with this stat. 1 in 3 Americans rent. 1 in 3 Americans pay rent these days. And a lot of that rent is for an apartment. Now, you put all that together, and maybe you can understand why Maxwell House, which is a 133-year-old coffee brand, is changing its name to, and I am not kidding, you can look this up, Maxwell. I can't even say it. I can't even say it. It's so stupid. A 133-year-old coffee brand is changing its name to Maxwell Apartment. It's all over the news. People thought it was a bit, but it's not. The idea, apparently, is they want Americans to know that Maxwell House is affordable coffee. And people will realize it's affordable with a name change to Maxwell Apartment.
Okay, call it a sign of the times. The U.S. Census Bureau says nearly a third of Americans are choosing to rent rather than buy. And now there's a coffee brand that reflects the moment. Maxwell House is rebranding to Maxwell Apartment.
For the first time in 133 years, check this out. Maxwell House Coffee is changing its name to Maxwell Apartment. The company says Americans are looking for a good value, whether it's where they choose to live or the coffee they drink. They say Maxwell Apartment offers a quality cup of joe without a pricey trip to a coffee shop.
Now, for me, personally, Maxwell Apartment lacks a certain comforting vibe. Maxwell House had a comforting vibe. I didn't think they actually meant it was a person's house. I just thought Maxwell House sounds Rockwellian. Maxwell Apartment sounds Orwellian. Was there a group of people who came up with this, or just one drunk guy? Who let this happen? What coffee are you serving, Gene? Why, I'm serving Maxwell Apartment. Gene, that doesn't sound tasty. Let me read the label and see what we're getting here. Says here it tastes like a discarded rental unit in an area suffering from urban blight. It tastes like a laundry line strung from a back window to a fire escape holding grandma's knickers. What? Is that going to sell well, do you think? Probably a lot better than Maxwell Van down by the river. Maxwell Van down by the river isn't selling at all. Personally, I would have liked to have seen a change to Maxwell Mansion. I like the alliteration there. Maxwell Mansion. It's better than Maxwell House. Maxwell Mansion. Has a nice ring to it. Exclusive coffee for an exclusive crowd. Maxwell Mansion. Maxwell Mansion, however, would not be the most expensive coffee in the world. I looked that up today. I looked up what is the most expensive coffee in the world, and I found Kopi Luwak. Kopi Luwak is the world's most exclusive and most expensive coffee. And you know why Kopi Luwak is the world's most expensive coffee? The main factor for the high price of Kopi Luwak is the uncommon method of production. It's produced from coffee beans which have been digested by the Indonesian palm civet and then excreted. I'm not joking. The Indonesian palm civet is a kind of cat that likes to eat these beans and then poops them out, and they're collected and they're used to make coffee. Does it not do your heart good to know that the people with the most money in the world are drinking coffee made from beans crapped out of a cat? The outer layer of the coffee bean is removed during processing, and the remaining beans are completely cleaned before being roasted, but still it is coffee made with beans that a cat called a civet has eaten, digested, and pooped out. I will happily surrender the privilege of having Kopi Luwak coffee. I'll happily surrender that to the wealthy. It's all yours. If that's what your money buys you, have at it. The beans are from the Panjaligan highlands of West Java, Indonesia. The taste of this coffee is noticeably not bitter, intensely aromatic, has a complex flavor profile that is smooth, earthy, sweet. It's $600 a pound for this coffee. You want a cup of it at a coffee shop in Indonesia? $50. $50 for a small cup of this. That's the most expensive coffee in the world. The cheapest coffee? Maxwell Homeless Shoplifted Coffee. Maxwell Homeless Shoplifted Coffee. That's the least expensive. Most expensive? Cat poop coffee. Cat poop coffee. Most expensive coffee. I like my cat poop coffee. You will too. Who was the first person to brew up the cat poop coffee? I want to know who the first person was who said that might be good. There's no way around the fact that some guy was messed up grabbing cat poop and making coffee, Isn't it an automatic that Kopi Luwak must have been discovered by a disturbed individual? That's an automatic, right? Have you tried Maxwell Mentally Unstable coffee? It's the most expensive coffee in the world. Made from cat excrement. All right, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back. And when we come back, we're going to take another break. And then we're going to take a break and come back from that. And after that, we'll take another break. Break my mind, Mischke. You're breaking my mind. Let's continue to look at more reviews from MSP, Plumbing, Heating, and Air. That's Minneapolis, St. Paul, Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Here's yet another in an endless stream of 5-star reviews that you can find online. They were patient. They were friendly. They were respectful. We needed a new water heater. Ours was shot. They got everything done in record time, and they cleaned up better than it was before they got there. What a pleasure MSP is to work with. Here's another review. Oh, the joys of home ownership. We had our furnace go out in November and our AC go out in July. Both times we contacted MSP, and we went from service call to purchase to installation to working system in less than 36 hours. I am so impressed with their speed and professionalism. From the phone to the service to the text to the sales to the installers. Beautiful. Where are you going for your plumbing, heating, or air conditioning, folks? Nobody touches them in experience. They're the best in town. Minneapolis, St. Paul, Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Folks, the first time I met Mike Bilski of North American Banking Company, I was impressed by the way he talked about a bank the way I would have expected banks to be talked about 30, 40 years ago. A place in your community you rely on, you turn to, a place that works with you on things like home loans, business loans, a place that gives you good advice when it comes to your money, a place where you walk inside and people know you by name, they say hello, they ask about your spouse. There was a vibe when I talked to Mike Bilski at North American Banking Company that time had stood still from when I was a younger man. He didn't view that old way of doing things as antiquated. He just viewed it as a no-brainer way of operating when you have a community bank. There are 6 Twin City locations for North American Banking Company. I think you'll find if you switch over to North American Banking Company that warm sensation will return, that feeling of you having a banker, the way you might have an attorney or the way you might have a doctor. I think that'll all come back. It should have never left.
North American Banking Company. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hello?
Florida Jim!
Mischke, how you doing?
Good old Florida Jim!
Florida Jim, yeah, my son named me that.
How'd he come up with that name?
Bought our house down here, and once in a while I'd party a little bit too much, so he just came up with that, Florida Jim.
So what did you do with your life?
Real estate broker. I used to own some real estate companies and sell a lot of houses, and now I moved down to Florida and kind of doing the same.
Now, as a guy who sold a lot of real estate over the years, are you sure you were 100% straight with people when describing properties? Or do you think you fudged a little bit and made some places sound a little better than they were?
Mom always said, son, tell the truth and be a good boy and all that kind of stuff.
But then you shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. Did you ever sell a piece of property knowing that someone had killed themselves on that piece of property and you didn't reveal that to the person buying?
No, never did that.
Did you ever sell a piece of property where someone had killed themselves on the property?
Yes.
That's a bugaboo.
Yeah.
I'm just picturing myself as the potential buyer. Love the place, great square footage, love the view, location, location, location. And then the person says to me, I should mention a fella killed himself in that back room there, the one that would be you and your wife's bedroom. I mean, that would shut down the sale right then and there.
But when you look in the Twin Cities where houses were over 100 years old and suicide is not new, that could have happened without anybody knowing now.
You're thinking odds are someone has killed themselves in pretty much every house.
I'm thinking odds are pretty good that there's been some kind of tragedy in just about every one of those houses that's over 100 years old.
When I think tragedy, I think the big two are murder and suicide. So probably a murder and suicide in every single house.
Right.
So now I'm picturing walking down the block in my neighborhood or any neighborhood and just looking at the houses, maybe walking with my wife around twilight, just enjoying the evening air and saying, what murder or suicide do you think happened there? What murder or suicide do you think happened there? How about there? How about there? How about there? Maybe the people overhearing us come outside. They heard it through the screen. I'll tell you the murder that happened here. Over here, I'll tell you about the suicide. Stop this way. 2 people were killed in my house. What the hell's going on out there, Florida, Jim? It sounds like mayhem.
We bought what was called the Stabber's house, where the wife stabbed the husband. It was just known as the Stabber's house when we moved in, and we didn't know that. And they were going, oh, you got the Stabber's house.
What were the circumstances of the stabbing?
They were still together when we bought it. This guy relied on everything that she did, and she used to beat him and do, just was a bad person. She stabbed him. She got arrested, and he went down to the police station, and he wouldn't leave. He was begging and crying for her to be released, and she didn't do any jail time. She did get released. Shortly thereafter is when they decided to move from this area.
They probably moved to an area that was a little bit more open to S&M. This sounds like a sadomasochistic situation. He was into stabbing. Maybe he had a safe word and just never wanted to use it because he was having so much fun, even in situations where he was about to bleed out. That's when I use the safe word myself, but I'm a baby.
The safe word is stop, probably.
Mine is pneumonultra microscopic silicovolcanoconiosis. Mm-hmm. The story on Florida is it's a pretty twisted place. I mean, some freaks live there. Based on the news I get, it sounds like very unusual activity can be found any day of the week with most of your Floridians. For instance, just a typical story. There's a drop in temperature. It's unusual. It's unexpected. Quite cold, and a bunch of...
the iguanas.
The iguanas fell from the trees.
Yeah, they're not native. And when it gets below 30... and they freeze solid and drop out of a tree onto the sidewalk.
Yeah, so a typical story one I read is a guy driving along, stops his car and loads up his vehicle with all the iguanas to eat their meat, to bring them home, to butcher them up for free meat. And then while he's driving down the highway, in the warm car, they start to wake up, and they all go berserk. He ends up going off the road, and there's this huge accident. Cops are called. Iguanas are everywhere. Reporters down there will say, well, there's a very typical Florida story. It's just a general weirdness quality.
There's a roadside tavern, and a lot of these places are just little small places. A person decided that he wanted to go urinate outside, and he tripped over an alligator while he was doing it, and he lost his leg.
Have you had experiences with alligators?
Oh, yeah, seen a lot of gators. Never had any interactions with them. They generally don't come after you like people might think.
My aunt lives in Florida, and she had an experience where she went to the bathroom one time, and there was an alligator in her bathtub. She didn't have a curtain. It wasn't a shower. It was just a bathtub, and it was in there. And she had gotten so used to alligators, sounds like you guys see them a lot, that she just decided she was going to continue with what she planned to do in the bathroom. And part of it involved using the toilet and also doing her makeup in the mirror. And she just continued to do that with the alligator right there in the bathtub, good size one. Now, he looked at her, but he never made an aggressive move toward her. And she ended up leaving the bathroom that day, going to work. She never called anybody. She assumed however it got there, it would get out of there and return to wherever it lived. But at night when she came back, it was there again, in the bathtub. Now, she once again used the bathroom as she prepared to go to sleep, doing all the things one does in a bathroom before going to bed, and she just went to bed, turned out the light, and again assumed it would let itself out. In the morning, it was there again. And at that point, she decided to go next door and ask a neighbor what she should do. The neighbor came over, looked at it, and said, if it's not harming anything, if it's not doing anything that really bothers you, I'd let it go. Now, that alligator stayed there 9 straight days.
That's the wildest thing I've ever heard. I've heard of them in swimming pools, but never inside of a house.
Interestingly, she did add water eventually, thinking it needed it. And then after 9 days, it got out of there, and it killed her dog.
Oh, yeah. They're known to go after pets.
Then she got upset, She actually paid, she's a very wealthy woman, she paid an enormous amount of money to have that dog removed from the stomach. Had the alligator stuffed and her dog stuffed. And then what she set up, and this was something people could see in her living room when they visited, she set up a scene where the alligator was attacking the dog, so like a diorama almost. That is how she would tell the story, not only of what happened that awful day, but what had happened over those several days with the creature in the tub.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So you tell me, is Florida weird or what? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's weird. That's for sure.
To this day, if you go down there, she's got that diorama set up. The dog, they weren't able to put it back together as well as they would have if it hadn't been digested. But she says that just adds to the realism because the mouth is over the dog in the diorama in her living room, and so the dog is already kind of being ripped apart.
Jeez.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate getting in touch with you. Thanks so much for throwing your name onto the list. My favorite part of this whole new gig has been the ability to visit with listeners.
It's good stuff, Mischke. Keep it up.
Great visiting with you. You be well now.
Yeah, you too.
All
Thank you for calling.
Bye-bye. Well, I think that's going to do it for this program. But there will be another. They keep coming one after another, brother, sister. We'll keep doing them. We ain't stopping. If you're going to keep listening, I'll keep rolling. Let's keep making some magic. Let's do this as long as we can, huh? You, me, and the fence post?